Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Diamond Discussion podcast, sponsored by JBM Sports Media. Listen, it's opening weekend. We had a hell of a ride. It was amazing. We're gonna highlight our three favorite teams. Obviously, me being the Mets, Jay being the Yankees, and Brew being the Astros. No, kidding. Obviously, the Brewers. Um, listen, we're gonna dive right into the weekend. We had a lot go on, and we're gonna discuss some other things around the league as well. Not go crazy in depth, but it's got to be brought up because there's just some things that we can't ignore. But overall, I think all three of our teams had good weekends, roughly. But we'll jump
Mhm.
right in. I mean, they opened up the season, so I think it's fair that we open up the first Diamond Discussion episode of the brand new 2026 season with the New York Yankees. Um, they had a fantastic season against the Giants. So, fellas, what's your biggest takeaway with this Yankee series?
Yeah, JB, if you want to start it off.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing was the one run that they gave up in the three games. Obviously, I think one of the crazier part is that the bullpen actually looked as strong as it did. Camilo Duvall and Jake Bird really were the highlights of this bullpen over the weekend. I mean, Camilo Duvall was throwing that sinker at 99 miles an hour, and the break on it was absolutely ridiculously filthy. I mean, if he has that pitch under control and he's able to, really hone in and use that pitch in his arsenal, he's going to be unhittable. I mean, that supposedly there was a couple of things in his mechanics that Matt Blake was noticing at the end of 2025 that he was able to fix in 2026, supposedly in spring training. And whatever he did, the first weekend he looked, absolutely fantastic. Jake Bird, obviously, he pitched literally one inning last year, coming over in that trade and was hurt, and obviously didn't look good. And we were all joking and saying that this was a complete waste of a trade, and what are we going to get out of this guy? But if this guy could really be a piece, he did really good over the weekend as well. Got a big double play in the final game the other day against the Giants, and not for nothing, if he could be a piece in this bullpen, it's just added depth, to this back into that bullpen, and obviously the lineup. Obviously Giancarlo Stanton hitting 500 this weekend, Aaron Judge homering. Ben Rice had a triple. I mean, if this offense could do what they did last year and be somewhat the same this year, I think it's going to be a really nice season. So obviously, look, it's the first three games, and you don't want to get too high on it. But the Giants really surprised me offensively. I didn't obviously expect them to score one run. I thought they would be able to, light up the scoreboard a little bit more. But that Yankee pitching was really good. Will Warren got into the fifth, and he looked pretty good. So listen, like I said, it's the first three games, but I definitely liked what I saw coming out of this weekend.
Yeah, I don't blame you for saying that at all, specifically because when you look at the Yankees starting rotation this past weekend, and Warren did his thing, Cam Lillard pitched great. Max Fried had a gem to start off the season. And you look at the Giants pitching, actually, they, except for Logan Webb, held their own, relatively speaking. I mean, hitting wise, I think Vitello said it best after I think it was the second game of the year. Their manager said that he felt like he was a little bit too hard on them, which is like at this point you kind of get into like talking about like how is this going to go for the Giants like whole season wise. Yes, it's only 3 games, but with Vitello being a new manager in the MLB, how is that mindset transferred from being Tennessee Volunteer manager to now being the San Francisco Giants manager? Because that offense was putrid. I mean, Patrick Bailey had some of the worst at bats I've seen to man. Like, I mean, you might as well put a pitcher right there because this guy was horrible. He was jobbing to the max. But I was very impressed with the Yankees offense. I'll say that because when you look at, even though Judge struggled the first 2 games, really, I guess you could say until he got that home run, a lot of people were chirping this and that about Judge, but we know what Judge is going to bring you. I mean, the guy I was impressed the most about was Big G. I mean, he was in that hitting everything, and I felt like every time he made contact, whether it was a single, double, the ex Avila was there. And this is the guy that the headline came out that he was struggling to open some chips or a bag of chips or something like that. And it looked like it did. I mean, it just doesn't look like that when he has the bat and he's on it and he's healthy. It just doesn't look like that. Jazz Chisholm had some good hits as well. Caballero with some good hits, I'll say that. But this bullpen really did surprise me, like JB said. They held it down. Was that a little bit because the Giants just looked like they were deer in headlights? Might have been, but I can't discredit the Yankees. I think it was a great series for them.
Yeah, I completely agree, wholeheartedly. But everything, my biggest takeaway was the bullpen and some of the pieces that were, the question marks. And for at least right now, they're showing that they're not going to be question marks. I mean, Camilo Duvall, his biggest problem is command, and he didn't have that issue this weekend at all. Jake Bird was another one where he was in a situation like Jay had mentioned last year. The Yankees trade for him. He pitches 1 inning, gets sent down to the minors, and we never see him again. And that was it. And it was like, well, what's going to happen? And here he is in this bullpen, and he came up in a really big spot because San Francisco threatened a lot, throughout the series. Some of it was tight, and the Yankees bullpen did what they had to do. David Bednar, if you guys remember in a prediction, I have him winning reliever of the year. I went out on a stretch saying that. I think he's going to have an amazing season. If the Yankees bullpen can do what they did in this series, and you can get Camilo Duvall to hone in on his command, he is going to be a very lethal 8th inning option for them. And I'm liking what I'm seeing. He is a huge key to this bullpen. Bednar, he's had his ups and downs throughout his career. Mostly it's been up, but Camilo Duvall, I think, is the X factor to this bullpen, because if you can get that lockdown piece with his stuff in the 8th inning, excuse me, it's going to be a very dangerous game, because you're essentially potentially cutting off 2 innings of a game. And that's, if you have the ability to do that. And once this rotation gets healthy, when you get Garrett Cole back, when you get Carlos Rodon back, you're cutting off two innings at the back end. You have a Cy Young winner at the helm coming back from Tommy John. You have Max Fried, who's always in the Cy Young conversation. You have Carlos Rodon, who can give you quality start after quality start. He's shown what he did last year. This bullpen, to me, that was the biggest key. And to just touch on one thing Ben said about the whole Aaron Judge thing, I think it's hilarious. Everybody in that Yankee lineup on opening night had a hit except for him. He had the golden sombrero, went 0 for 5, and everyone's saying he's still struggling or still dealing with whatever happened in the WBC, because he's struggling in a couple of games in that aspect. But it's Aaron Judge. At least regular season wise, what he's going to bring to the table. I mean, he's got 3 MVPs. He's going to work on his 4th. To say that he's not going to be in the top 2 or win it again is asinine. So one game to have an overreaction on anything positive or negative, I think, is a little much. But overall, it was a great series for the Yankees.
Yeah, I agree. I think, kind of talking about the Giants real quick, just to wrap up my thoughts with them, like, if Devers and Willie Adames don't get it going, like, who is going to get it going in that lineup is what I'm saying.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Who is it going to be? Because, like I said, Patrick Bailey, Casey Schmidt, who else was it? Harrison Bader. I just saw some bad at-bats with them, and it's maybe they're still trying to get in rhythm, but maybe not, because Bader played for Team Israel. Helia Ramos, I think, played for Team PR. I mean, they should have had already a little bit of stuff underneath their feet, but it just doesn't seem like it. So, granted, give them benefit of doubt first 3 games, but it's just like, if you don't get Devers and Willie Adames going, then who is? Because Matt Chapman didn't look the best either offensively.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, just to go back to what Mike was saying before, in regards to the bullpen, if Fernando Cruz and Camilo Duvall are really going to give you that much of big out production, that could really be one of the better bullpens in the AL, if not the whole league. If that's going to happen, I mean, that'll be really dangerous, because you can start flip flopping and mixing and matching when it comes to the 7th and 8th inning. You don't have to give them a solidified role. Depending on what part of the lineup of whatever team comes into play, you could really put Camilo Duvall in some big situations where he could actually be, a piece that exceeds expectations, and puts you put him in a lot of successful situations where he faces maybe a part of the lineup that isn't so strong, and he could just come and overpower them and hand the ball over to Fernando Cruz, and then vice versa. So I think Aaron Boone is going to have interesting outputs when it comes to the 7th and 8th inning being the bridge, to Bednar. I think you can really flip flop there. So, and then you have a guy like Jake Bird that could get some outs in the 6th in case your starts don't go 6. So, having some depth in that bullpen is going to be key for this Yankee team moving forward. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think since they're going to face the Mariners next, I think that's going to be a good series to kind of tell, like, all right, if the Mariners offense gets it going against the Yankees, how will that, like, prevail from them? Because, like, the Giants offense really didn't give them a big test. Like, Mike did say, like, they left a few runners on, which is true. But I think this series with the Mariners is going to be a pretty good tell of how things could possibly go for the Yankees, in my opinion.
Yeah, Yeah, I was actually just gonna bring up that point. The Yankees got the Mariners next. That starts tomorrow. We're gonna see how that series goes. It's gonna be, all eyes are gonna be on that. You got two potential favorites coming out of the AL squaring off early on in the season. We'll see. That's gonna be a very good series. I'm looking forward to it for sure. And on the Giants side of it, if we do have any Giants fans listening to us right now, I mean, they're going into a series against the San Diego Padres. That's gonna be no easy test for them either. Regardless of what we might think about San Diego, their talent is there. It does exist. So, we're going to see how that plays out for both teams. Overall, though, you got to imagine the Giants are going to bounce back. And you got to imagine that this series, with the Yankees and the Mariners is going to be very interesting. I think they're going to be very tight knit games. I think they're going to be very high scoring. I'm going to be honest with you. So I think maybe some of what we've seen from the bullpen out of New York might not be the case in this series because this is not anywhere close to the lineup that they just saw in San Francisco. And they have some guys struggling, and they're still putting up numbers. I mean, Cal Raleigh has been terrible so far. To say the least, he seems to have brought over his WBC struggles as well. So if they could hope that Cal Raleigh stays at bay, or if that big monster decides he's going to wake up now. So that's going to be a very interesting series, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thankfully, he didn't wake up this week against me and Mike's fantasy matchup, so I'm glad he didn't wake up and decided to sleep for a few more days.
Yeah, I know, because I got Cal Raleigh on my fantasy team, so thanks a lot.
Me too. Me too.
So that's that. But let's actually move on to my team because this was actually a fun series for me to watch personally, and I am talking about the Brewers sweeping the White Sox to start off 3-0 in the regular season. I think this, for me, I got to be honest, this is a very joyful watch for the first two. The last game was stressful, but it gave a great Brewers comeback, and it highlighted a lot of things because I went to opening day on Thursday with White Sox Louis, and it was a great time, especially because of the lead that the Brewers had by the 6th. I believe it was like 8-1 or something like that. And we just saw great at-bats from Bryce Terang, Christian Yelich. I mean, even Joey Ortiz. I clown the guy so much, but I can't deny he had a great series. I was super impressed with this Brewers pitching staff as well because Mizorowski did we had, well, except for one guy. Yeah, just wait for it. I'm going to clown the shit out of him a little bit later. But Jacob Mizorowski, I think he was the talk of the town in Milwaukee for that first game. 5 innings pitched, only allowed 1 earned run, and it was the home run in the beginning of the game. After that, he struck out 11. That was it. That was it for the White Sox. Nothing else until they got this Mickey Mouse home run from Murakami in the 9th, but that was it. It was against a jobber. I mean, look, I'm not hating on him at all because I think Murakami had a great weekend in general. He had a home run in each game, but I'm so impressed because before the game started and we were on the way there, it saw that Jackson Chiriot was going to go on the IL because he fractured, I believe it was his metacarpal, his left index finger, basically, and he's going to be on the IL for I think 2 to 4 weeks. So that's tough to see. But you know what? It's next man up mentality. It's always been like that for the Brewers. It's going to be like that again. And one guy I was impressed with, I will say, Luis Rengifo's at-bats for the Brewers this week were like super competitive. This is why you bring in a guy like that. Yeah, I'm super excited to see how Kyle Harrison pitches tomorrow because that Brewers pitching lab has done him well. But great series for the Brewers. Amazing. I mean, obviously, I'll talk about it right now. Amazing comeback win today. Christian Yelich, that home run. I'm pretty sure everybody's been seeing it on social media. That was like the call, the electricity behind it. I don't know who was from the White Sox or Anthony Dominguez. He was the one that gave it up. That was a cookie by him, though. Man, what a day. What a weekend. What a week for the Brewers. I mean, I'll get your guys' thoughts on it, but great week to start off.
Yeah, my pick for the Brewers actually, and the key to their success in a couple episodes, earlier that we did. I said Garrett Mitchell was going to be a huge piece to this team. He's actually hitting 400 this weekend, so he's off to a nice start. And obviously the pitching was fantastic. Chad Patrick in Game 2 was very good as well. He pitched 4 1/3. He gave up one earned run, I believe, and he had 4 strikeouts. He had 5 hits given up. He's going to keep that down a little bit, but other than that, the walks were down, so he wasn't giving up anything extra. So I think when it comes to the Brewers' success, it's going to be their starting pitching. I think their starting pitching is so good, and they get a lot out of their guys. They really do. And there's something has to be said with that organization when it comes to the development of pitching. They just really do a really good job of getting guys to where they have to be and really stretching these guys out, and getting them, getting the full use of their talent. And honestly, that's kudos to that organization. They really find some guys like diamonds in the rough as well, and they really know how to develop. So I really see this Brewers pitching staff being, the cream of the crop and being the overall reason of why they're so successful this year. To be honest.
I think outside of he who shall not be named for a little while longer, the Brewers pitching staff said Freddie who. I mean, the Miz showed up in the opening night. Listen, they played the White Sox, but at the end of the day, you got to win these games. And they were down big today, and they came back on a monster comeback. Brew alluded to it already. Christian Yelich comes up in a huge spot with a 3-run homer to put them over the top. This Brewers team, they're exactly as advertised. The pitching staff is what it is, and that scrappy lineup that has a little bit of everything mixed into it. They got contact, they got speed, they got pop. They literally are, I would say, closest to a complete team without having that monster superstar. I mean, Yelich isn't what he was 4 or 5 years ago. And they were missing Jackson Churio. They were missing Jackson Churio. He didn't play the role this series. To be able to do what you did, and again, regardless of who you're playing against, you're down 6 runs at one point in a game. And that just shows the fight of this team. And this just shows why this team won 90 plus games, had the best record in the National League, and did what they did. And this is why the three of us have the Brewers at such a high regard, because it doesn't seem to matter who they lose, what they do, what moves they make, who they bring in. Like Bruce said, it's that next man up mentality. They constantly develop pitching phenomenally, like Joe said, and this lineup is very well rounded. Like I said, they have a little bit of everything mixed in there, and that showed on all cylinders in this series against the White Sox.
Yeah, and if people also want to say like real quick, like, oh, but they played against the White Sox. Look at what the team in the North Side did against the Nationals. That's all I will say. I'll point that out.
Exactly.
So you got to be, and it's like the White Sox offense. This is what I will say too. It's like they hold their own, bro. Like Colson Montgomery, he had a big day today. Murakami, I mentioned it, 3 home runs, 1 in each game. Austin Hayes was pretty decent too. Miguel Vargas. I mean, I'll say like this: the White Sox did impress me in this series, even though they lost in the way that they lost today. I think I see the spots where they can have bright players in their future, like Colson Montgomery. I think Murakami only being on a 2-year deal, that's a little bit tough, but plug-in pieces. I really like what I'm seeing with the White Sox. Even though it was like a tough series, I think they battled some of their bullpen arms, like Grant Taylor. He was very good as well. Dominguez, like I said, he gave up that shot, but yeah, I mean, I saw things that I like from the White Sox. I don't want to, clown on them too much because at the end of the day, they're still a rebuilding team.
Yeah, I just want to go off with something that Rose had said earlier about this team that they're just doing all the little things right. If you haven't noticed, or if you have noticed, sometimes they make moves where they don't make the move, right? Like for example, if there's a player available that we think is a good fit for the Brewers, and oh, bro, how many times have we said, oh, they should get this guy, he would be great, they could use a guy like this, and they don't get them, and they still exceed expectations. Even though they may have a spot where they need to fill it, and they could go get the big name, they don't, and they bring up a guy that they're working on, or they just plug a piece in that spot where they already have, and they just seem to come out on top. So kudos to them for not always pulling the trigger just to do it. And they really have, obviously, they have great minds in that front office when it comes to evaluating talent. And sometimes maybe the moves that we think they should make and they don't, it actually comes out to be something that it's better for them. So, like I said, kudos to them. They're really developing a really well-rounded team over there, like Rose said. And I think they're going to win, obviously, 90 plus games again this year and be a real force in that, not only in the National League Central, but the entire National League. I think the Dodgers really should watch out. I know that they beat you guys last year in the NLCS handedly, but I think it was the Brewers more than the Dodgers, honestly. I think the Brewers really shot themselves in the foot in that series, and I think they just had too much on their mind and they tried to be perfect instead of just playing their game. And that's kudos to the Dodgers as well, that they can make you feel like you have to play a different type of brand of baseball when you play them, and it can get you out of your comfort zone. But I really do feel like that team is going to be very well tested, especially last year, going through what they went through, winning 97 games and coming up short in the NLCS. I think this team is going to be a force to be reckoned with in 2026.
I agree. I think I'm not looking at the postseason right now. Obviously, we're only 3 games in, but just one game at a time mentality, and the rest will handle itself out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Before we maybe move on, Brew, my next thing for you is what is your expectations or what are you looking forward to in the Brewers next series? They play the Marlins next. The undefeated Marlins.
They play the Rays actually next.
Oh, they play the Rays. I'm sorry. I was looking at something different.
Yeah, they play the
I was
Rays.
looking at the White Sox. The White Sox are playing the Marlins. Forgive me. They
No,
play the
that's
Rays.
not good. But even the Rays, like the Rays just won. They put up 11 runs today against the Cardinals. Yes, it's the Cardinals, but guess what? I think seeing Junior Caminero in town, Sugar Shane McClanahan is back, pitching on Tuesday, which is going to be super cool to see. That guy hasn't pitched in over 2 years, I believe, since like 2023 or 2024. I don't know, but that's going to be super cool to see. And I think the Rays are always a pesky team that gives you problems. So I'm excited for our next series against the Rays. And Woodruff's going to be on the mound for us. Like I said, Kyle Harrison and The Miz. So it's going to be a fun series. And we're still at home field advantage. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's fair. Joe, you got any takeaways going into the next series for the Brewers?
No, listen. I think they're just gonna. I think they're gonna put up a ton of runs again. Honestly, I think this offense is something that we should low key talk about as well. Obviously, we just went over that whole pitching and how they pitch really well. I think it's just such a well-rounded team offensively. They have a little bit of speed. They do have a little bit of pop, and they're fundamentally sound when it comes to putting bat to ball, and they don't strike out either. They really keep the strikeouts down, and they can get on base. So I wouldn't be surprised if they put up another 12 to 13 runs in this three-game set against Tampa.
Yeah, I genuinely think it's a fair assessment, and the offense looks as good as it does right now. And like I said before, they are minus Jackson Churio. They're big bat in that lineup. So, if they can maintain this and then they get Jackson back, I mean, it's we're gonna look at a dangerous lineup again. And I think Jackson Churio is gonna take another step forward because this kid is the real deal.
And
So
Andrew Vaughn as well. I forgot to mention Andrew Vaughn's out for 46 week. He
yes.
hamate injury. This just keeps going around in the league, I guess. But yeah, he's having surgery this Monday.
Such a weird injury that I feel like has really come into play the last 3 or 4 years. It hasn't really been an injury that we're used to hearing, and all of a sudden it seems to be plaguing a lot of guys in the league the last couple of years. It's crazy to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it really is. But guys, if you can, light up our comment section. We discussed the Yankee series and the Giants, and we just discussed the Brewers and the White Sox. What are your biggest takeaways? Maybe it's different than ours, and that's totally fine. We want to hear yours, and tell us why. Tell us why you feel the way that you do, why you have the takeaway that you do. And out of both series, who were you more impressed with, the 3-0 Yankees or the 3-0 Brewers? Who was a little more impressive to you? And we'll leave it there. So if you guys can do that, that'd be great. And if you haven't, like, subscribe, share to everybody that you know. We appreciate the love. We see the numbers keep going up. We do appreciate you. The comments, the likes on every video. It really does mean a lot. It helps us. And like I say all the time, it motivates us to keep going. So we want to hear from you guys. The more we hear from you, the better we feel that we're putting out good content. So by all means, guys, light up that comment section. And finally, the other series that we had to get into, last but not least, the Mets take 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. I'm going to be honest. I could have saw this coming for different reasons. For the fact that they had to face off against Paul Skeens in the first game of this series. And they saw Paul Skeens for about 8 batters. They knocked him out of this game. Actually, I should rephrase. The Mets and O'Neal Cruz knocked Paul Skeens out of that opening day. Something I don't think anybody expected. That opening inning, Freddie Peralta gives up a 2-run shot, and you think, oh, that's great. Skeens has a 2-run advantage, and he hasn't even stepped on the mound yet. So what are we in for? Another Paul Skeens outing. And the Mets offense responded mightily. Again, with the help to O'Neal Cruz and the sun, and the fact that he decided not to wear sunglasses, even though the sun was bothering his eyes. Let's figure that one out. Guys, I'm gonna give a little more of my thoughts on the Mets, but I want to hear from you guys. What was your biggest takeaway out of this series with the Mets and Pirates?
I think O'Neal Cruz has to be evaluated here. I don't know how much longer you could run him out in center field. I mean, this has been now. What are we talking about, guys? Is this a year and a half with this whole center field, adventure, and it's just not pairing out? I mean, this is like it's really bad. It's kind of looking like Jason Dominguez 2.0 out there. You're putting him in a position he's never played before, and he's just showing you that he just can't do it. I think he's going to be either a DH or maybe you transition him somewhere else. I don't know what to do here, but defensively, he is a complete utter disgrace defensively. I don't even think there's anything else to say. But he's going to cost you a lot of games out there, and I don't know if you could really do that moving forward. This season there was so much promise, and defensively it looks like it's going to be a problem. Anytime there's a ball hit the center field, you have to hold your breath, and he's going to make even the routine plays are just going to make you like sit on the edge of your seat, and that's not going to be really good moving forward for Pittsburgh. But when it comes to this Mets team, I think the Mets did what they had to do. They took 2 out of 3 from the team that they're not there yet. They have to prove it. They have everybody on paper to do it and be competitive, but it's early, so it's a good sign that the Mets took 2 out of 3, and they were able to get a big home run from Luis Robert. That was really cool. Hit a 3-run home run, walk off in extra innings, so that was nice. To see him in his Mets debut this weekend. But like I said, there's a lot of people talking about Bo Bichette and how he's been underwhelming these first 3 games. Guys, it's not June. It's literally March. He's played 3 games. Let's shit on him if it's June 15th and he's hitting 160 with 3 home runs and 13 RBIs. It's the first 3 games of the season. You have to kind of call a spade a spade. And right now, you can't shit on the guy for not having a good 3 games. It's just not how it's going to be. I can't do that yet. And the same thing for Juan Soto this year. I was telling this to Mike. We spoke on the phone earlier. I wasn't going to bash Juan Soto until there was a body of work where I could say, okay, now it's 2.5 months. You haven't played well. But it's literally 3 games, and I'm not going to get there yet with Bo Bichette. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. This guy's a professional hitter. He's proven that he can hit 30 home runs and knock in 90 to 100 and hit for average as well. So I'm not going to do that to this guy just yet. If this was June and he's performing like this, then I'll have something to say about it. But right now, I think Met fans need to just take a chill pill and let this guy just be who he is.
Yeah, I agree. I think opening day when I was watching that game, because obviously that game started before all the other games on Thursday, and I got a chance to watch a little bit of that first inning Skeens. I mean, you could say O'Neal Cruz played a part, but at the same time, the Mets hitters were giving Skeens troubles in certain counts. Like you could tell he was getting overworked a little bit. I think the manager made the right call pulling him. O'Neal Cruz obviously didn't help him whatsoever. I think that his work, it didn't work out at shortstop. It's now working out at center field. Well, yes, at some point you have to make maybe a decision like, all right, what's next for this guy? But I was impressed with the Mets, more so Luis Robert. I think Luis Robert had a very good series. JB talked about the walk-off, and I said it coming into this year, I think he's going to be the major X factor because it looks like as soon as a talented player leaves the White Sox, they turn into Barry Bonds. And I think that's what happened to Luis Robert. And I said he smells really good as well. And I agree. I think I'm going to stick with that because it just looks like he's rejuvenated in New York. And it's good to see because I think he's one of the most talented players at his position in all of baseball. And I think the fact of the matter is him in New York with that culture, with Soto, with Francisco Alvarez, Lindor, Polanco, it looks like he just fits in perfectly there. So shout out to Luis Robert. I will say, seeing Freddie pitch for the Mets on opening day, I think the Mets finally got their first experience of what a Freddie Peralta pitching outing could look like. It's going to give you a little bit of your heart jumping a little bit. It's going to get your pressure going on, but that guy's a elite pitcher. He figures it out. I will say this. I was very happy with David Peterson's outing on Saturday. I think he had a very good outing. Mitch Keller had a very good outing on Saturday, too, to be quite fair for the Pirates. And the Mets low-key could have gotten this sweep. They were like about 2 feet away from getting a sweep against the Pirates, but Polanco just missed that home run in the 10th by just a little bit. It died at the track. We were talking about it earlier before we went and recorded this, and it's just crazy because this Mets offense, really, as soon as Bo Bichette's getting that bat waking up, I think they're going to be perfectly fine, up and running. Singa hasn't pitched yet. I don't know who's pitching tomorrow for the Mets. Is it going to be Singa?
Clay Holmes.
Clay Holmes.
Yeah.
Clay Holmes, then Singa in St. Louis, and St. Louis just won 2 out of 3 from the Rays. I think that's going to be a pretty fun series as well, but I think this is a great series from the Mets. Even though they didn't get that sweep, I saw a lot of things that I liked.
Yeah, I think you hit every nail. The other thing that we haven't discussed, and I think it's a similar conversation that we had with the Yankees, outside of Joe's favorite Met, Rich Lovelady, the Mets bullpen was fantastic. Brazaban was amazing. Luke Weaver looked very good. Devin Williams had a little bit of a hiccup, but he fine. He bounced back. He settled his own. The bullpen to me was very impressive. The pitching was very impressive. Freddie ran into a little bit of issues. Like I said, he gave up that first inning home run. He gave up 2. He gave up 4 runs in that start, but he settled in and he didn't lose it. So I thought that was, that was a good way to see what, like how Bruce said, a very Freddie Peralta potential outing where he maybe doesn't have all of it, but he's still going to give you that ace-like start where he's not going to completely fall off a cliff. He's going to dangle and scare you a little bit, but he did what he had to do and kept them in that. And Tobias Myers made his debut on opening day as well. He looked pretty solid. And David Peterson, my biggest thing with him is he's showing a little bit of signs of what he was last year, where he ran into a little trouble here and there and gets himself out of it. So, if he could limit getting himself into trouble, we're talking about a very dangerous guy in David Peterson, because when he has those innings where he doesn't allow base runners, he keeps his pitch count down, and you could rest that bullpen a little bit. That's my only issue with Peterson. He tends to pitch from behind a decent amount of time, and he seems to just run into trouble when it's just, we don't have to do this every time, not every start, things like that. But he bounced back and got himself out of it. Like Bruce said, Mitch Keller had a very good game. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, which how the Mets could have had this sweep, and everyone wants to say, Polanco, obviously that was the thing. It was 2 feet, maybe less, from hitting another walk-off, back-to-back nights of new Mets walking them off in the opening series. The other thing was Soto hitting that double into the gap, and Lindor being sent on that relay, and he obviously got tagged out at the plate. Now, a lot of people are, from what I've seen on some groups that I'm in, Mets groups on like Facebook and stuff, people are flipping out that Lindor was sent. Well, if you look at that relay, watch it again, because the shortstop, his body was he was in an awkward position. So for him to turn around and make a perfect throw, you were gambling that he had to make a perfect throw. He did. It happens. That's the way it is. You can't kill Lindor for going for it in a situation like that, or being sent in that situation. Now, if that doesn't happen, you have second and third. Polanco is tied the game with a long, deep sac fly, and who knows how that essentially plays out. Overall, and to obviously discuss the other starter from today, Nolan McLean, looked very good. Very good. 5 innings, gave up 2. I think he walked 2 and struck out 8. I mean, that's a good way to open the season. He got a lot of flack for his WBC play, which I think is insane, because he didn't pitch bad at all in WBC. Team USA did not hit for him. He gave 2 runs in the final? They didn't hit for him until the 8th inning. So he did not look bad at all. A little bit of issues, a little bit of traffic on the base pads, but he got out of it. Especially in his last inning of work. And like I said, I can't be more happy with the bullpen. Hosgar Braziban has he's starting his 2026 the same way he started this 2025, on fire, and that's what you want to see. The bullpen has been, outside of, like I said, outside of Lovelady, the bullpen has been just about untouchable. In retrospect, Tobias Myers gave up a run or 2, and Luis Garcia in game 1, but Luis Garcia's job at that point was get the ball over the plate, let them put it in play. Let's get this game over with. Let's call it a day. And they scored a couple of runs, but outside of that, I think the bullpen has been spectacular. And my last piece, I'm making it quick. Bo Bichette. I'm not going to rip him yet. My favorite thing that he did, I don't know if you guys had seen it yet, his post-game interview. They asked him, because he got booed. He got booed today. He's 1 for, and he's got 8 strikeouts to start out the year, and 1 RBI, and that was opening day. That was the first inning. He drove in an RBI on a sac fly. They asked him about him being booed, and he kind of cracked a smile and said, I felt like that fan base took too long. And I thought that was the perfect response. I thought that was great. He understands what it is to play in a city like this. And for him to kind of make that joke and maybe ease the tension, and, it's showing that this isn't eating him alive right now. He understands this is a marathon. So I think Bo Bichette is going to be fine. Met fans, don't freak out. Go watch his highlights. You'll feel better.
Yeah, I'll say the same. One thing I did like about the Mets as well, and actually, before I get into that, one thing I did want to point out: if Lindor wasn't sent on that play, Bichette actually hit a grounder, and it was hit kind of hard. I think Lindor probably would have scored at that type of game, and that would have been pretty interesting. Then it would have set up Polanco a chance to obviously walk it off with a single or a double even. But I think I like what Bichette has done so far with the address post game. I think that's the perfect way, like Mike said, that's the perfect way to put it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, I don't think Met fans should be at all concerned. It's 3 games into the season. Uh, Listen, Juan Soto had a tough 2.5 months and then was one of the best players after the All-Star break and did a complete 180 and had one of his better offensive years, known to known to man, honestly, in that second half. He had his best offensive output as a Yankee, and then all of a sudden he has his best offensive output in one half. So, I mean, you could really just wait. I guess you could really say something. Obviously, you want to say whatever you want. People are entitled to their opinion. But I think after 3 games of seeing a guy press, it's new situations, new conditions, new team, new position as well. I mean, he's not only worried about his hitting, but he's also have to worry about his defensive play. He's obviously worried about making the play and not being a defensive liability at his new position. So he's got a lot on his plate right now, and obviously he wants to be able to produce offensively so he can ease that pressure, of him playing defensively at a new position. So give Bo a little bit of a break right now. I think he'll be perfectly fine. And like I said, if this was June, I'd say yes, you have something to talk about. But right now, that's not the case. It's 3 games in, and the Mets are 2-1. That's all that counts.
Yeah, and I feel like 3 games is a little. It's not a little it's big time disrespectful because you know the type of
Yeah.
player that he is. You know he's an all-star caliber player. I mean, look what he did in his small sample size in the postseason last year in the World Series. Like, I mean, you know what this guy brings to the table. 3 games, you can't be on his ass about that. It's just not acceptable.
No, yeah. I
Also,
mean,
a guy that
look,
hit 380 last year with runners in scoring position, led
yes.
all of MLB. You know, I mean, you know what this kid is going to bring you. He damn near hit 300. He's always going to hit around there. He doesn't strike out like this at this clip. So if he's going to get all this crap out of the way in the first series of the year, so be it.
Yeah, I mean, look at Aaron Judge in 2024. His first month, he was hitting 186, and he was horrible. He had a terrible April, and he went into May, and we were like, "Oh my God, if he has another bad month, the Yankees are in trouble." And he wound up winning the MVP and hit 58 home runs. So, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. These guys that are good offensively, and they have their moments, they're gonna find a way back to reality. And reality is that Bo Bichette's going to hit 285, 300, and 25, 30 home runs and not getting close to 100 RBIs. We know that for a fact.
Couldn't have said it better myself, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see this guy light it up because it's just going to complete this lineup. Because the lineup has looked okay. You know, I mean, listen, they've had good at bats. I took that away out of game 2. You know, Keller was great for the Pirates, and then that second half of the game in the bullpen, their at bats totally changed. I felt like they were very aggressive against Keller, and it wasn't working. And they made an in-game adjustment, and they started taking more pitches. They were down 0-2 a ton, fought back to 3-2. Guys worked out walks, got pitches to hit. That's the team that we saw in the first game of the season and the second half of game 2. That's the recipe for this offense right now. That they got to battle and they got to fight, and you're going to see that. And the fact that they made that in-game adjustment in game 2, I thought was very big to me. I was very impressed by that.
Absolutely. And I mean, if there's one thing I'll kind of just to finish off talking about the Mets is like how Mike said, when the whole lineup starts clicking, and even Bench, he had some bright spots as well, hit his first career home run, and Mike was in attendance for that. That must have been really cool to see. I think it's all going to pan out for them.
Absolutely. Guys, please, I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry. I know it's annoying, it's boring, it's aggravating, but you already know what I'm going to say. Light up the comment section. What was your takeaway from the Mets series with the Pirates? Should they have swept? Are you upset that they didn't? Listen, it is what it is. It's the opening series. You win 2 out of 3 every series, you're making the playoffs. That's how it is. So they're in the right direction. Took 2 out of 3 from a Pirates team that, not maybe the Pirates team that we're used to seeing. They have a very good pitching, and their offense has obviously upgraded. And the pieces that they brought in had shown that all series with Brandon Lau and Ryan O'Hearn. They were in the mix of everything. So I will say again, guys, light up the comment section. What was your takeaway of all 3 series that we discussed? The Brewers, the Yankees, and the Mets. We want to hear it. We love the discussion. We love to, maybe hit on something that we didn't, that we missed. Maybe. We're going to jump around a couple of little things, couple of takeaways from around the league, some of our eye-opening things, good and bad, that we saw throughout the weekend. I'm sure most of you out there, like the rest of us, we didn't just watch our teams play. We watched all of baseball. Baseball is back. The itch, the scratch, it's gone. This is it. We have baseball weekends from now until November. So this is fantastic. Fellas, open it up. What was some of the things that you saw and noticed around the league?
Yep.
So for me, I'm going to say Mackenzie Gore. I love the fact that switching new leagues, obviously from the National League to the American League, and pitching in a pretty tough AL West, going to the Rangers. He pitched really good against Philly today, 5 1/3. I believe he had 8 strikeouts. He did really well, and they took 2 out of 3 from that Philly team, so that's a good thing, Mike. Obviously for the Mets, seeing Philly drop 2 out of 3 early. To a Rangers team that we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know what their offensive output's going to be. A lot of question marks about that bullpen and what the starting pitching going to be like. Obviously, Jacob deGrom woke up with a stiff neck, of course, because I have him on my fucking fantasy team. So why wouldn't he wake up with a stiff neck? And then he reports the next day saying, "Oh, I'm perfectly fine. I'll be able to pitch next week." Well, great. Well, because now my fantasy team lost because I missed a potential 30-point start from Jacob deGrom. So thank you, Jacob, for pulling your shit opening weekend. But anywho, I like to say I think Mackenzie Gore, I think pitching really well for this team. That's a good sign. I think if Texas is going to be successful, they're going to need pitching, and if Mackenzie Gore could be that guy, coupled in with a healthy deGrom, if that could happen, and obviously we know what Nathan Eovaldi could bring to the table. I think that's a nice 1-2-3 punch for this team. So seeing what he was able to do against Philly was a nice start for Mackenzie Gore and his tenure there in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into this real quick because I brought this kind of funny graphic. Obviously, there's only been 3 games, but remaining undefeated teams. We already talked about the Yankees and Brewers, but I guess we could talk about the other 3. I think this is like a graphic. I don't know if you guys seen it. It's like the 3 dragons, and then one's like the silly dragon. Well, I think we all know who the silly dragon out of the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, and the Marlins are. No disrespect to the Marlins, but I guess talking about the defending champs, the Dodgers, they had a pretty successful, week, championship celebrations, ring night, everything like that. And the D-backs, we talked about it, bro. They were actually in those games until like the 6th inning, but guess what? Their bullpen comes in, game over. They job the lead, and you get to see the presence. I don't know if you guys watch those games. You get to see the presence of Kyle Tucker in that lineup and how, this is a lineup that you're going to have to give everything with those bullpen arms to get those outs, because then you got Mookie, then you got Freddie, then you got Muncy, and then Pages and Teoscar had some pretty good at bats as well. If you guys did watch that Dodgers series in general, the D-backs held in there offensively, but when it came to their bullpen, they were all like, "Yep, this is where we check out," and check out they did. For those last 2 games specifically.
Yeah, and obviously, people looking at the Marlins right now, they're saying, "Oh, wow, 3-0, really?" Yeah, they played Colorado, but like I said, if you if you're gonna be successful, you're gonna have to beat up on these bad teams, right? If you're gonna make a little bit of a run, I know the Marlins are one of those teams that they're probably still in the spoiler category rather than making a wild card push. But listen, you have to start somewhere, and you have to play who's in front of you. And they won 3 games against a team that they probably should have beat 3 times, and they did. So kudos to them. They're off to a good start, and they're actually first place in this division. So obviously that's not going to last long, but it's a good start for the Miami Marlins. I'll give them props where props to do.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know. I mean, last season going into the final weekend, the Marlins were technically not eliminated. So maybe they could be, maybe they repeat that. Maybe they take that next step. Maybe they sneak in. Who knows? I mean, we don't have that. We did our predictions, but I mean, like you said, they did play Colorado. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You got to win those games. And listen, Toronto looked very good, very promising. They look very good in their series. That's another thing. I mean, you got the 2 teams that finished with the same record in the AL last year and tied for the AL East, and the Toronto and the Blue Jays and the Yankees, and they have picked right up from where they left off. So this is going to be a dogfight. It looks if these teams continue to go down this road, between the Yankees and Toronto. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to the first time they play each other. That's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see that.
Absolutely.
That's going to be fun. Joe, if you're not going to that series, I don't know what you're doing when they come to New York. Yeah, you're gonna have to be there. Maybe I'll join you. Maybe we'll get Ben to fly out. We'll figure that out. Maybe we'll pay for his flight or a hot dog or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
One thing I would like to mention, because I watched all three of those Blue Jays games, and when I was watching them, I saw two things. One thing about the Blue Jays, one thing about the Athletics. For the Athletics, I'll start off first. Their offense is going to hold it down for them, but their pitching is absolutely not going to hold it down for them. And it's like not just their starters, their bullpen is me, you, all three of us, because they had some of these guys, what is Latinier or whatever these guys, I don't even, that's how you know. If I'm butchering your name, you're probably not going to be in the league in the next 2 years. So I got to be honest with you. I was not impressed with their bullpen. Specifically because Shea Langoliers hit a grand slam in game 2, and it was 6-2. But what does their bullpen do? Sell the game for them. Yeah, and Blue Jays wise, I saw Okamoto play, and I'm all like, this guy, he's not gonna give you exactly what Bo Bichette gave the Blue Jays. But I mean, you could damn near fit the shoe right there with Kazuma Okamoto, because his at bats, he was very precise, composed. It looked like he was used to this. And it's good to see, because the Blue Jays needed a hitter like that, obviously losing Bo Bichette. So this Blue Jays offense still look like they're putting the ball in play. Alejandro Kirk had a big moment right there, tying it in the 9th in that game 2. Springer today led it off with a home run. Vlad kept doing Vlad things. And yeah, the Blue Jays, like I said, the Blue Jays I feel like are still going to be that team to mess with in the AL.
And you know what? With the Blue Jays, real quick, they're one of their peskiest hitters that I feel like nobody ever talks about. Who won their game 2 was Ernie Clement. You know, he's one of their peskiest little. They're guys that he's just always involved in something, and somehow we're not talking about. Why is nobody talking about this guy? He's starting to cement himself as one of these guys that you don't want to see up in a big moment.
We should call him Ernie Cement instead of Ernie Clement.
Yeah, I think that, you know what, that's gonna be a new thing. Guys, just so you know, for the future, when we have Ernie Clement on this show, we're gonna be let him know that we're the ones that started that trend. JBM Sports Media Diamond Discussions, we're the ones that started Ernie Cement.
I also wanted to say, obviously a lot of Blue Jays fans, from what I was seeing on TikTok in the offseason and on Instagram, they were very concerned about losing Bo due to the fact that he was such a likable guy, and obviously his offensive output was such a key contributor to Toronto's success. But the Okamoto fits their offensive mold. He doesn't strike out; he puts bat to ball. That's what Toronto preaches. And just because maybe he won't hit 30 home runs and knock in 100 doesn't mean he can't do what they want him to do, which is going to hit high average, and he'll probably hit anywhere from 15 to 17 home runs and have 75 RBIs, which is perfectly fine, and that's big production right there. But he puts bat to ball, and the strikeouts are very limited, which is what their mold is. That fits that Toronto mold very nicely. So I don't think they're going to feel the effects of losing Bo as much as some of these fans thought they would.
Yeah, one thing I will say as well, one of the most exciting series I believe this weekend was the Angels-Astros series. That was such a dope series because the Angels won the first 2, the Astros won the last 2. But thankfully, in this series, what I saw for the first time in a long time, even though I've trolled him, called him a jobber, and yes, I called Mike Trout a jobber at some point. You could clip it if you want. But I was his biggest hater because he can't stay on the field. Is that me being mean? Yes, it is. But guess what? I'm sick and tired of giving my hopes on Mike Trout. But this series, this gave me hope. This gave me hope that potentially, if Mike Trout stays healthy, he's taking the right approach. Some of those at-bats, I mean, I'm glad ABS is here because he was getting screwed on some of those calls right there I was seeing today. But it was super fun to see him playing the way that he did in that Astros series. In general, the Angels offense looked really good. Neto played really good. Shanuel played very good. I was super excited seeing how the Angels are playing, but the Astros are going to be the Astros, and they came back in game 3 when it looked like the Angels were going to win that game. And it looked like the Angels were going to win today, but guess what? The Astros came back again. If only the Angels spend a little bit more on their pitching. That's all I will say.
Yeah, they're just a dumpster fire, that whole organization. But in regards to Mike Trout, you make a good point. Obviously, it's frustrating. He can't stay on the field. But if he can give them 120 games this year, I mean, that's almost like a full season at that point. If he could get to at least 120, I think his offensive output will be really, it'll really be okay. I really think he could produce if he's healthy and give you another 35 home runs and knock in 100 RBIs. And hopefully he hits a little bit better for average than he did last year. but it's all about staying on the field for this guy. If this guy can stay on the field, he can actually help those young guys and mold that young organization instead of being a voice on the bench because he can't play. They can see this guy go out and day by day and see his work ethic and see what he does to prepare. I think that's important too for some of these young guys. So hopefully he can give them at least 120 games, and that'll be something that I would really like to see from Mike Trout. For the Angels this year.
Yeah, I think that's a given. I think that's everybody. Everybody's rooting for Mike Trout. How do you not? One of the best talents we've seen in this generation, and this was a good sign going forward. And like you said, hopefully he stays on the field. We all want to see it. I know the Angels are going to come to town at some point. Hopefully we get to a game and actually see the guy play live. It's always a fun thing when you get to see one of the best players you've ever seen in your life step on the field. And not to mention that he's just a genuinely great person. I mean, he's signing autographs before every game. He's not one of those superstars that allowed that to get to his head. Very humble guy. He's always, I don't think anybody really has a bad thing to say about him except Brew being frustrated with him that, he can't stay on the field, but outside of that, his character, the way he handles himself, everything, the work he puts in, we're all rooting for Mike. Obviously we want to see him do well. And you know what? Not for nothing with the Astros with that series, they overcame a really bad start by Imai today. He did not look good. He really didn't have it at all. I mean, it could be, first day jitters being, in the States now. Christian Walker had a pretty solid series, and if you can get that guy going behind Jordan, I think that's going to be a huge problem, and at least give somewhat of the production that he was given in Arizona, because last year he was atrocious. His first year in Houston, missed some time, but overall, I mean, if that guy's going to get going, he's going to be in the middle of this Astros offense, and that's not going to be all that great. I mean, that's going to be a very dangerous thing to have that. But overall, I mean, the Astros, listen, like I said, they overcame a pretty bad start from their top prize free agent target this year in Imai. So,
yeah,
listen, kudos to them.
74 pitches in 2 2/3. That's a lot in your first start.
He did not look good. Did not look
States.
good.
That's tough.
Yeah, but listen, that team overcame it. This team has been around the block. A lot of these guys have been with this organization for a very long time.
Yeah,
they're going to figure it out. I'm not worried about Imai. I think he's going to be fine. Well, we're going to see how that plays out. Guys, if you can, in the comments, please, around the league, what was your biggest takeaways? Because we gave you our positive ones, but our buddy Ben here has come up with, I think, something that's going to be here to stay. I think it's a fantastic thing for our future guests on this show that may or may not be some MLB players. We're going to apologize in advance if you ever made this list and we did this and spoke about you. It's nothing personal. It's just based on performance. So I will say that going forward, we do apologize, but in the same respect, this should be what you should work towards, not being
the jobber of the day. The jobber of the day. There you go. I rather would have started. You know what? Yeah, let's start off with the jobber of the day. Finish with some positivity, obviously. But the jobber of the day, unfortunately, got to go to my guy Brandon Sprout from the Milwaukee Brewers. Had a horrendous first start. Literally looked like he shitted himself a little bit during that second inning. That was pretty bad. The nerves got to this kid. I could tell he was nervous. But check it out: 3 innings of work, 7 earned runs. He walked 4 batters. If you're giving up a home run to Everson Pereira, something went wrong in life.
Oh my God, Everson Pereira.
I just want to put that into perspective. Yes, Everson Pereira had a good day against Brandon Sprout, to say the least. Colson Montgomery hit the grand slam off Brandon Sprout. Murakami hit a home run that was, I think I could have hit that home run the way that pitch was located. But yeah, Brandon Sproat, you are today's jobber of the day. Do I think you're going to bounce back? Yes. But do I also think you need a little bit more time in the Brewers pitching lab? Yes, I do think so, because it just looked like the nerves got to him. Like I said, it looked like me after I had some Chipotle, to be honest with you. I think that's the best way to put it. It just looked like it got to his stomach. Maybe something happened. I don't know. I saw his face in the second. Like, that's what I said. Like, his face in the second inning. It was like, and I was just man, this is going to be a long day, isn't it?
He looked like me on a hot summer day in the park after having like $30 worth of Taco Bell.
Exactly. Thank you. Best way to put it. Unfortunately, he's today's jobber of the day.
Yeah, he's jobbing. He jobbed to the max, 100%. But like I said, I think it's just one bad start. I think he'll be fine. I think that Brewers pitching lab is going to be able to turn him around. But hopefully, there's not too much more of that for him this year because that'll be a problem for the rotation moving forward if he's going to have starts like this. But I think he'll be perfectly fine.
I hope so.
I don't even know how to follow up what you guys just did. So I'm just going to agree. I'm going to leave it at that.
Good.
I can't follow that. I genuinely can't follow that. That was, bro. You're incredible. I really do. I love you. You're
Be
amazing.
honest, bro.
No, listen, that was spectacular. I can't follow it, so I'm not going to. Guys, comments. Who's your job of the day? We gave you ours. This is the show. We all come together, and this is what we came up with. I thought it was fair. Unfortunately, it had to be somebody from the teams we root for. A guy we traded away. Brewers very high on. Glad we got him in. Glad they got him in that trade. I was happy with him. I was very high on him as a prospect with the Mets. It's a shame to see it, but listen, it is what it is. So, guys, hit up the comment section. You tell us your job of the day. We want to see it because maybe it's not the same. Maybe it's a guy from Philly named Jesus Luzardo because he was atrocious as well.
Honorable mention this weekend to CB Buckner. Man, that guy might get fired after this year. The way.
So I actually left a comment on Instagram. I said, you know what, CB, this whole ABS system is going to really expose for how bad of an umpire you are because we saw it before the ABS system that you were ass, and now this ABS system is just going to prove how much you are ass. And the fact that he got challenged on back-to-back calls by Eugenio Suarez today, and he was proven wrong, just goes to tell you how much of a jobber he is. So not for nothing, he should split the jobber of the day with Brandon Stroke because not for nothing, some of the calls that he made were just absolutely ludicrous. I mean, the first one to Suarez was down and in, and I'm talking about like a legit 4 to 6 inches off the plate that anybody with halfway decent vision could see that it was not a strike. And the fact that he was surprised that Suarez was challenging him, it was also even more shocking. It's like some of these guys actually get brainwashed into thinking that they're actually making good calls, which is actually scarier than how bad they actually are. It's actually they've convinced themselves that they're good, and not for nothing. Thank God Angel Hernandez is not in the league anymore because I think watching him with this ABS would have been a complete and utter comical. It would have been comic relief watching him out there getting challenged constantly on a weekly basis. So, I think you should split the bill here with Brandon Sproat, and he should be jobber of the day as well.
Yeah, I do agree. I think he might take the Angel Hernandez approach and, might call it a career. Might call it a career before it gets too bad, like Angel Hernandez. Just, it was a good run. Not really, ever, but it was a good run, really, I guess, financially for him. But, yeah, that's it.
I'm gonna make a very bold take right now. I'm gonna make a very bold call. CB Buckner is going to get so frustrated with being challenged, he's going to throw somebody out for ABS for continuing to challenge him.
Wouldn't even be surprised.
See, I don't know.
I'm telling you, he's going to be. If he was that arrogant that he got mad at Suarez, I could see it.
He was. You could see he was pissed. You could see he was upset. And he was a little ticked off. And also, there was a couple of plays in that game where he was actually challenged a little bit as well from other players making some calls. So I could see he was already upset. But he was wrong on both of the calls. So it wasn't like Suarez was challenging for no reason. He was challenging because he saw that the calls were putrid and they were ass, and he had to make up for it. He's like, hey, listen,
I can guarantee you this is going to happen. There's going to be a dispute. It's going to be a thing. It's going to be like 2-3 at bats with the same guy, and he's going to throw this guy out of the game. Watch, I'm telling you.
I don't think he can. I think he can actually get fined for that just because it's like balls and strikes, bro.
There's gonna be an exchange. There's gonna be exchange. He's gonna open up the floodgates. He's gonna say something to the player that the player doesn't like. Player's gonna respond, and then he's gonna toss him. Watch. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
Well, then I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. If he did his job halfway, what he's supposed to do, he wouldn't get challenged this much, and ABS wouldn't be around if the umpires were actually doing their job better. So, I don't feel bad for any of these guys, to be honest with you. They put themselves in this position to where we need robots fixing the game. So that's on them.
I wouldn't say that entirely. Listen, being an umpire is not an easy thing.
It's not. But you know what? Some of these guys are that bad where they pushed it to this limit. So I don't know.
That I could agree with.
And it's guys like Buckner, it's guys like CB Buckner, and it's guys like Angel Hernandez, and it's all these guys that were putrid behind the plate for
Hmm.
years that are causing this to be what it is. So
Yeah,
it's basically
I
what it
agree.
is.
I absolutely agree. Obviously, we got to finish off with some positivity. I think we'll each have one, but yes, we'll talk about the players of the day. I started that recently as well. JB, if you want to start off with yours, actually, your player of the day, you could go ahead.
Yeah, I had mentioned it before. Maybe jumped the gun a little bit, but I'm going to stick with Mackenzie Gore. I really think that there was a lot of question marks coming in to the season with how he'd fare in the middle of that rotation in Texas, and not for nothing, he looked great against Philly. I know he's pitched against Philly, a bunch of times, being with the Nationals and pitching in the same division. But the fact that he's in a new ballpark, a new organization, new teammates, and switching leagues, obviously going from the National to the American, and pitching in a pretty tough league, obviously. American League is a bruising league, and that they score a lot of runs. And the AL West is definitely a tough division. So that was a nice start for Gore in his debut as a Texas Ranger. I think that's going to be really important moving forward for this Rangers team.
Yeah, I think Mackenzie's going to be solid. I went a little different for a different reason. I'm going former Met Seth Lugo. I'm giving it to him, giving him the nod. He pitched 6 in the third, 5 hits, no earned runs, struck out 3. More importantly, the reason why I went more so on the Seth Lugo aspect is because that Royals team lost the first 2 against Atlanta. So Seth Lugo came in and did what a number 1 should do and be the stopper, and did what he had to do to get the Royals their first win of the season, and he was a huge contributor to that aspect. So I'm going Seth Lugo, and I think he's going to be another season where he is just a key contributor to the Kansas City rotation.
Yeah, I'm going with the pitcher as well. I guess we're going to continue this pitcher trend. I'm going to go Emerson Hancock from the Seattle Mariners. Pitched 6 innings of work today against the Guardians, and no hits, no earned runs, 9 strikeouts, only walked 1. Yeah, it was a no hitter until the jobber Criswell came in and he allowed his first hit, and that was it for Emerson Hancock. But one thing I'll point out, he jumped Luis Castillo in the rotation, so he's now the number 4. Castillo's the number 5. And I guess I see why now, because his stuff today, that sweeper specifically, I was watching that game. That sweeper was nasty, bro. It was fooling hitters like J Ram, DeLauder as well. I mean, he was just having everything go his way, and got to give him player of the day. Have to.
Yeah, he definitely earned it. He definitely earned that today. And too bad he couldn't go the distance. Maybe he could have got it done. A lot of these guys now, they pitch 6 or 7 hitless innings, and they can't finish it. It's just crazy how this game has evolved, where they'll pull a guy pitching a no hitter. It's kind of crazy. 10 years ago, that would have never happened, but it's a different ball game now. So just interested to see how this game has evolved, where they pull guys literally pitching no hitters now. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it really is. Overall though, I'm gonna say opening weekend. I'm so glad baseball is back. I think I'm gonna speak for just all of us and all of you guys listening and watching. I'm sure, regardless of how your team fared, baseball is back. That's all that matters. If you guys got swept this weekend, if you only won 1 game, whatever it is, you looked atrocious, you're undefeated. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to be happy that baseball is back. Look to the next series. How is my team going to bounce back? What are they going to do? And what am I going to do? I'm going to tell you to leave it in the comment section. And also, guys, like, subscribe, share, follow, do everything you can. Help us push this channel. We're trying. We're working our asses off to get things done. We have some things in the works in the future that I think is going to be make for some nice content. So stay tuned for that. You guys know we're here every day. You guys get a new video, whether it's me and Ben, Joe and Ben for the most part, because I missed a lot of time. Me and Joe, whatever it is, we somebody is here. We're not leaving you by yourselves. We're gonna hold your hand through this entire baseball season. We're gonna get you through it, whether the good, the bad, the ugly. We can't wait to see it. Guys, as always, thanks for hanging out with us.